Hello, everyone. Welcome to my podcast. My name is Claudius Cazan, and today we're going to take a look at combining rhythmic values, rests, simple meters, and we're going to take a very close look at the metronome for the first time. So please stay tuned. Welcome back. Before we dive into rhythmic notation, I'd like to talk a little bit about the middle pedal on the piano. Last time we talked about the sustain pedal, the rightmost pedal on the piano. This time I'd like to talk about the middle pedal, the sostenuto pedal. This pedal is a relatively new invention. It did not really exist in the 17 and 1800s. And let's see if there's any value in using this pedal. You know, the technique that it's employed using this pedal is a little bit different than using the sustain pedal. So a lot of professionals don't use it much these days, but I'm pretty sure composers can take advantage of it and its features. So let's go to the piano and see how we use the middle pedal on the piano, the sostenuto pedal. Okay, I'm sitting in front of the piano, and I am pressing the middle pedal on the piano, as you can see in the picture. Okay, and that's called the sostenuto pedal. The way this pedal works is when I play a chord on the piano and keep the notes down and then press the pedal, okay, the piano will sustain all those notes that were down when I press the pedal, okay? And you can see this from these dampers being up right now for as long as I press the pedal, okay? All the other dampers, notice, are still on the strings, damping the strings. So basically, the way to use the pedal is play the chord, press the pedal, and now you're free to play other notes short on the piano. All right, so this is how the pedal works. It allows you to play sustained notes, selective sustained notes that were down when you press the pedal, and allows you to play all the other notes short. So you get a mix of sustained and non-sustained notes. Okay, so let's talk about combining rhythmic values. Last time we talked about note values, and you saw how we took whole notes worth 4 beats if we assign the beat to the quarter note, and how they divided into half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, and so on. But I didn't mention the breve. The breve is a note that's worth twice as much as the whole note, and it's notated like this in modern notation, okay? Empty note head with 2 lines on either side, or like this with just 1 line on either side. Either way, it's called a breve, and it lasts as much as 2 whole notes, 8 beats if we assign the quarter note to the beat, okay? Just wanted to mention that in case you are wondering if there's anything larger than the whole note. And also, I might have mentioned the 30-second notes, which are very short notes, and those are notated with a note head like this, okay, stem, and 3 flags, okay? And there's 2 of those in each 16th note, okay? You'll see more of those as we start talking about more complex rhythm and so on. But let's talk about combining values now. I'm going to erase this, and let's talk about one way of combining values, and that is by the use of ties. A tie is basically a curved line. Okay, I'm going to put some notes in here. I'm going to tie. Let's tie a half note to a quarter note with a curved line that connects notes of the same pitch. So that's very important. It has to be of the same pitch, okay? Otherwise, it's not a tie, okay? And what happens in here, we combine the values of these two notes into one. So if this is worth 2, this is worth 1, the value of this figure here, it's 3 beats, right? The way to perform this is to start this note here and count for 3. We're not playing this note anymore because its value has been combined into this one, okay? So we're going to start the note here, and we sustain this note for 3 beats, okay? That's basically how we use ties. We can also use it on any other note values. For example, a whole note tied to an eighth note, okay? So the value of the eighth note gets added to the value of the whole note for 4 beats and a half, basically, okay? So this is how we use ties. Remember, ties have to tie notes on the same pitch, okay? That's very, very important. Let's talk about another way of combining values, and later on I'm going to give you more examples of this, more examples that involve all kinds of combinations and things, so you can see how versatile ties are. Okay, another way of combining rhythmic values is by using dots, okay? So for example, I'm going to draw a half note here, and I'm going to put a dot next to it, okay? Notice that I put the dot on the space because I want to see it. If I put it on the line, I can't see it. So it has to be put on the space above the note, okay, just so I can see it immediately. What the dot does is prolongs the value of the note by half of its original value. So if this is worth 2, the dot will be worth 1, half of the value, and they get added together to form 3 beats, okay? Very easy. Let's do it on a whole note. Okay, whole note, it's worth 4 beats, plus the dot equals 2, half of the 4. They get added together to form 6 beats. Okay, we can also do it on a quarter note, for example. Okay, quarter note is 1 beat plus the dot, half. So together they would make 1.5, okay? If we split the quarter note into 2 eighth notes, and this is also worth an eighth note, this figure together, it's worth 3 eighth notes, okay? This is going to be important when we talk about compound rhythm. Next time we're going to talk about compound rhythm, and this is going to be important. So remember, by putting a dot on a quarter note, I can combine 3 eighth notes into 1. So that's pretty cool, right? Excellent. Okay, let's talk about rests. Okay, each value, the note value that we talked about last time and today, the brevis and the 32nd notes, have corresponding rests. Okay? And rests are nothing but silence. If we want to notate silence between notes and so, we can use these rests. Also, there's a way to notate rests for longer periods of time. Okay, let's say that we're playing an orchestral piece and the oboes don't come until measure 20 or so. What do we do up until measure 20? We use rests to notate that the oboes have nothing to do up until that point. Okay? But so let's list all these rests and see how they notate first before we talk about them. So let's start from the very, very top with the brevis rest. The brevis rest looks like this. That's the one that's worth 8 beats. Okay? It connects basically the second and the third line. This is 8 beats, the brevis rest. Okay? Let's move on to the whole note rest. The whole note rest looks like this. It's a little rectangle that hangs from the second line from the top. Okay, so this would be the whole note. Whole rest. I'll just put whole rest. This is worth 4 beats, of course, just like the note itself. So this is 4. This was 8. Right? And the half note rest looks like this. Okay, it sits on the third line, and this is worth 2 beats. Okay, so be very careful when you look at these two rests. It's very easy to confuse them. The whole note rest hangs from the fourth line, from the second line, and the half note rest sits on the third line. Okay, so you have to get used to them. But once you see them in context, it's so much easier to tell them apart. Okay, let's talk about the quarter rest. The quarter rest looks something like that. This is the 1 beat rest, or the quarter. Okay, that's the quarter rest. The 8th rest looks like this. Okay, this is the 8th rest. Okay, the 16th rest is just like the 8th, but it has 2 little flags like that. And so this will be the 16th. And the 32nd one is just like that, but it has 3. Okay, so this would be the 32nd. Okay, so now pretty much you see all the rests that we have out there. The brevis, the whole note, the half note, the quarter, the 8th, the 16th, and the 32nd note. Okay, you guys can probably do a better job notating these than I do, but these are the rests that are out there. It's very important to notate that these rests are equally important in a measure as the notes themselves, so they have to be counted very carefully, just like the notes. Just because it's silence doesn't mean that we can skimp on counting on them and so on. No, they're very important, and we have to account for silence just as much as we account for actual notes in music. Okay? So let me give you some examples now of how these rests sound when I put them together with notes. Okay, so I'll put notes and rests together, and then I'll go to the piano and I'll play them for you, so you see how rests really sound in the context of a musical phrase or so. All right, so let's put some notes and some rests on the board right now. I'm going to start right here, and let's put a G clef here. Okay, and let me do something like this. Let's have a half note, right, worth 2 beats. Okay, let's have a quarter note rest afterwards, and then another quarter note in here. Okay, so I'm going to play a note, hold it for 2 beats. I'm going to rest for 1 beat, and then I'll play another beat for something that sounds like this. So if this is my tempo, 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, so you notice how this was held for 2 beats, and then I had a moment of silence worth a quarter note, and then I played another quarter note. It's very simple. Let's do something a little more complex here. How about if I have a string of 8th notes with 8th note rests in between, okay? And then I'm going to have a quarter note rest, and then another regular quarter, okay? So basically, how this is going to sound, it's going to make these notes, okay, short, 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 silence, long, okay? So if my beat is 1, 2, 3, go. All right, so short, short, silence, note, worth a quarter note, okay? How about something else? How about now, you saw how we can use dots, right? So how about we do something like this? And then let me have a half note rest here. Okay, and then a quarter note there. Okay, so this is going to be worth 3 beats. Then I have 2 8th notes, which together are worth 1, right? A half note rest, which is 2 beats, and then I'm going to play a quarter note. So this is going to sound something like this. If this is the beat, 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, so one more time. Okay, pretty simple, right? So this is how we notate that rhythm. Okay, we're going to take a look at more complex stuff a little bit later. Right now I'm ready to talk about meter, because I've been dying to talk about meter. All these notes that I put in here, it's outside the concept of meter, meaning there's no bar lines, there's no time signature. Let's talk a little bit about meter. And today we're only going to talk about simple meter. We're not going to go into compound. Okay. Now, in order to understand rhythm in general in music, we have to understand that I cannot just write music indefinitely without any kind of structure or any kind of way for me to put the rhythms together into a more meaningful way and group the rhythms together into phrases and so on until I have some kind of a concept of meter. Okay? Once I have that concept of meter, I'm going to have to notate that meter. And the way to notate meter is by the use of a time signature. We notate meter by putting a time signature in the beginning of the piece, or if the meter changes midway through the piece, we have to state it again. But if the meter doesn't change, we just put it in the beginning on the first staff and we leave it that way. We don't have to state it, on the beginning of each staff. So the meter consists of two numbers, one on top of each other. And I'm going to use the 4/4 meter right now since it's the most widely used one. And just because we put numbers one on top of each other, please do not think of fractions. Okay? They have absolutely nothing to do with fractions. The top number here, okay, it's purely a counter, and it numbers how many? How. Gotta learn how to spell how. How many? Okay. How many? And the bottom number, what kind? Okay, so when you look at these numbers, think about this. The top number tells me how many, the bottom number, what kind. Okay, so that means that the top number is simply a counter, meaning that it counts beats, right? And the one on the bottom just defines for me what the beat is, okay? For example, in 4/4, it only means that in each measure, which is to be shown with bar lines, okay? Once the measure is done, I'm going to draw a bar line that goes from the top line to the bottom. It means that I have 4 quarter notes in each measure, okay? The number on the bottom can be a 4, a 2 for the half notes, can also be an 8th for eighth notes, a 16 for 16th notes, and so on, okay? So we're limited on the kind of numbers we can have on the bottom. 4 means quarter notes, 8 means eighth notes, 2 means half notes, and so on. So it really represents the note values that we talked about. On the top there, that number can be different. We can have 2s, we can have 3s, we can have 4s, and so on. Today we're only going to talk about 2s, 3s, and 4s, okay? Because those consist those are the simple meters. The 2/4, for example, it's also a simple meter, okay? And the 3/4, it's also a simple meter, right? So remember, if the top number is 4, 2, or 3, or 2, 3, or 4, okay, we're talking about simple meters, okay? These numbers on the bottom can have any note value like half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes. Right now it's set to quarter note because of the number 4 in there, okay? Also, simple meter can be something like this, a 2/8, okay? We're still in the simple meter because we have a 2 on the top, but the note value on the bottom changed to eighth notes. That means that in this particular measure, I'm going to have 2 eighth notes, okay? Another one could be 3/8, okay? That's also a simple meter. Okay, just because the note value changed here doesn't mean that I've changed over from a simple meter. It's still a simple meter. Remember, if I have 2, 3, or 4 on the top, I'm talking about simple meters. Okay? So these are, or I can have 2, 3, 4 here and move to 16th notes on the bottom, right? Still simple meters. It only means that in each bar or measure, okay, I'm going to have 2 16ths or 3 16ths or 4 16ths. That's all there is. So if you keep this in mind, everything gets very, very easy. Okay? Now, let me show you how to conduct this. Every time we talk about a meter, it's nice to have some kind of a sign that when we perform rhythmic, singing or something, it's nice to conduct and show the other people where we are in each measure. Okay? So let's learn how to conduct 2/4 right now, or any simple meter that starts with a 2. By the way, let's call them right now. This is the duple meter. Duple. Why? Because it has 2 beats. This is triple because it has 3. And this was the quadruple one in here. Quadruple. Okay? So if it's got 2, it's duple. If it's got 3, it's triple. If it's got 4, it's quadruple. But it's still simple meter. Okay? So let's learn how to conduct 2/4. Very easy. Down and up. Down and up. 1, 2. Okay? So now, don't make it so stiff like 1, 2. You can do that too, but usually conductors put a little bit of a gesture in there, like, more 1, 2, 1, 2. But still make sure you stay very clear, okay? Making sure that your down is down and your up is up. Okay, for the 3, it's almost as simple. You go down to the right and up. Down to the right and up. In the camera, you see it backwards, of course. I'm going to your left. But remember, when you conduct, you go down to the right and up. Down to the right and up. And this is how we conduct 3/4. How about 4/4? 4/4 goes down to the left, to the right, and up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, in the camera is backwards, so make sure you go down, first to the left, then to the right, and up. Okay? It's going to be very important when you start doing rhythmic exercises, and I want you to get started with those. Next time, I'm going to give you some homework on rhythmic exercises, and I will want you to start conducting. Every time you perform these rhythmic exercises, you're going to be conducting. Okay? Because I want to make sure that you guys are on the right part of the beat, okay? And also, people that you will be performing with are also on the same beat as you are, okay? So that's why we need conductors. We need conductors to tell us exactly where we are in the music and what part of the beat. All right, so let's give some nice examples here of simple meters. I'm going to put my G clef again in here. And I'm going to use 4/4 for now, okay? A simple meter, the simple quadruple meter, okay? With the quarter note as our beat notated on the bottom there. And let's make up some nice rhythms in here, and then I'll go to the piano and I'll perform them for you. So how about something like this? A half note, okay? And then a quarter note and 2 eighth notes. So you got to be careful right now to count very well what's going on in here. 2 beats, 3, and these 2 together, because they're eighth notes, make up for the 4th beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I must draw a bar line at this point. Okay, there's no choice. I have to do it. Also, I want to make sure that this bar is very complete before I move to the next bar. Okay, I cannot move to the next bar if this bar is not complete. Okay, so how about something else in here on the second bar? Let's start with a quarter note. Okay, let's put a quarter note rest. Okay, and then how about something like this? You're going to say, oh, wait a minute, you're throwing us a curve in here. But you know about dots, okay? And let's count what's going on in here. We have a quarter note, that's worth 1. We have another quarter rest, that's worth 2. The second beat, it's still worth 1 beat, but that fills out the second beat. And this formula here, I want you to learn this formula in here. This is worth 1.5, right? Remember the dot makes this note longer by half of its original value, which is 1/8 note. So quarter note plus an 1/8 note in here, and then another 1/8 note. So if this is worth 1.5, right? This is worth half because it's an 1/8 note. This formula here makes 2 beats together. And you will see this a lot in music. So when you eye this dotted quarter 1/8, immediately you think 2 beats together, okay? You'll see this a lot, so get used to this particular formula in here. Dotted quarter 1/8, worth 2 beats. So 1 beat, 2 beats, plus 2 beats, 4 beats. Bar line. I cannot put anything else in this measure because it's already full. I'm going to try to conduct as I play this with my left hand, okay? But I'm going to try to conduct now with my right hand and play the rhythm in here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So this is a little bit more difficult to understand. This was easy, right? Ta, 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 rest. Ta, ta. Okay? So basically what you need to do in here, make this extra long and this one very short at the end. Okay? Not very, very short, but shorter at the very end. So as you go through this 3 and 4 beat here going to the right and up, you will go like ta, ta. So you're going to change the beat first and then you're going to change to the 1/8 note. These are performance practices I'm telling you about right now, practical things that you have to do when you perform these rhythms. So one more time, let's spend a little time with this. So ta, 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 okay? Make sure that your rhythm is very exact. That beat going 1, 2, 3, 4, it's very, very important. In my next section, after I'm done with this, we're going to talk about the metronome. And it's nice to know that we have the metronome. We can put the metronome on and perform these things with the metronome. Okay? Let's quickly go to another simple measure in here. How about on this line, we go to 3/8. Okay? So what does that mean practically? It means that we have 3 1/8 notes in every measure. Okay? So let's compose something in here that employs 3 1/8 notes. How about something simple like this? 3 1/8 notes. Notice one thing. I'm going to beam these notes this time instead of using flags. I could have used flags as well, but since I'm going to play this on the piano, right, and there's no syllables underneath, I can use beams instead. Okay? And let's do something like this on the second measure. Okay, we'll analyze this in a second. And let's do this on this measure. Okay, so let's look at this second measure right now. Actually, second and third measures. Okay, I put a quarter note in here. How long is the quarter note when we look at 3/8 here? It's worth 2 beats, 2 1/8 notes. Remember, the beat here, it's given to the 1/8 note. That's why it's on the bottom number here. Okay, so I have 3 1/8 notes in each bar. 1, 2, 3, bar line, right? And here I have 2. They're combined into a quarter note. And this one is the third, right? Bar line. Now here I have 2 16th notes. How much is 2 16th notes worth? 1 1/8 note, right? Here's the second one right here. And then 2 more 16th note worth another 1/8 note. So this is worth 1. That's another one. And this worth another one. So we have 1, 2, and 3. All right? So you can see how we can combine these values in here. Let's move to the piano and perform this and see how this sounds. Again, I'm going to conduct now on the formula of 3, meaning down, to the right, and up. One more time. All right, you can see da, 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 da. What's important in here is that you keep that very, very steady tempo going. The beat, the 8th note, it's very important to stay very, very steady throughout all this. Notice that, you know, I didn't play anything faster just because the values changed to 8 in here. Yes, maybe you can play these a little faster. That's why they write it in 8 instead of 3, 4. So maybe a tempo like this would have been a little more appropriate. Okay, or even faster. Okay, something like that would have been quite appropriate for this. I'm not going to put the 2, 4 in here because it's very easy. There's only 2 quarter notes in the measure, and I'm going to give you exercises on this. You're going to be asked to compose a little rhythmic pattern, you know, that spans maybe 3, 4 bars in all of these simple meters, and come up with your own little formulas, and also be able to perform them while you conduct. Okay, that's going to be a little more challenging, but you have to start learning. So, you know, compose your little thing here, maybe for 3, 4 measures. And you'll see this in the homework that I'm going to assign you tonight. And, you know, in all the simple meters. The meters that start with a 2, the 3, and the 4 on the top. Doesn't matter what the value is on the bottom. It could be quarter notes, 8th notes, 16th, half notes, and so on. Just remember, those are all simple meters. Okay? Good. Let's start talking about the metronome right now. Here's the metronome app that I like to use. It's called Pro Metronome, and it's a free download either from the Apple Store or for the Android store. And this is a paid application if you want to use all its features, but for the basic features that we are using for this course, you do not have to pay for it. It sits really nicely on your Android or iPhone without you having to pay anything. If you look at the main display in here, there's a nice big dial in the middle with a play button. And but before we play it, let's take a look at what's up in the window up on top. It's set to 120 right now, meaning 120 beats per minute. Okay, and next to it you have a little quarter note. That means that we assign the beat to the quarter note, just the way I showed you. The meter shows 4/4. Okay, that means 4 quarter notes in every measure. So that's pretty nice. Now, under that you'll see 4 blocks. Okay, and the bottom blocks are highlighted, meaning that all these beats are going to make the same sound. Okay, and then there's that that green turquoise kind of block in the corner there. That's going to start moving from side to side when I press the play button. Okay, let's play this rhythm and see how it sounds. Okay, so you can see how all sounds are the same. How about I want to make a little bit of a different sound on the first beat. Notice how I brought that sound to a different level there. That's not making it louder, it just gives you a different sound on every first beat, just so that we know exactly on which part of the measure that beat happens. So here we play this one now. Okay, let's make this tempo a little bit slower. Let's assume that this is too fast. Notice how I turn the dial counterclockwise, and I'm going to stop at 90, and I want to play this again. Okay, so you get the idea. How about if I want to change the meter? See how it says 4/4 in there? On the bottom of your screen, you have a 4/4 button in there. Click the button, and then it takes you to another screen. This screen is where you set your upper and lower values. Okay, I can bring this up to, I'll bring it down to 3, okay? And I'm going to make, instead of quarter notes, let's make these eighth notes. So I'm going to go up 1. So right now, you can see in the display there, we have moved from the 4/4 to a 3/8 bar. We're going to swipe this down again. And now at 90 beats per minute, which corresponds to approximately like a moderato, we're going to have only 3 beats in every measure. And I'm going to leave the first beat accented a little different way. So let's play this. Okay, this is a little slow for eighth notes, so let me up the tempo to about 140, let's say. Okay, which is quite fast. Let's see how this goes. Okay, great. Now, there's another feature, nice feature here, still included in the free version, the tap feature. There's a tap button on the bottom. Let's say that you want to play at a certain tempo, but you don't know what the value is. And you can keep tapping with the music, or, you know, as fast as you think it's going to go. It says keep tapping. Okay, so it averaged all my tappings to about 161 beats per minute. Right now, it's still left in meter 3/8. So if I play this, okay, so that's about 161 beats per minute if we count the eighth note as being the metered beat in here. Okay, so that's pretty much what the metronome does. If you want to pay the $4 that this Pro metronome is worth, you're going to get a lot more features, but I don't think they're going to be necessary for this course. So head over to the App Store or the Apple Store and download the Pro metronome, have it ready on your device, and you have a good metronome right now that you know how to set and how to perform all your exercises and all the homework that I'm going to give you from now on that involved rhythmic notation. Okay? So let's go back. Okay, in conclusion, today we talked about combining rhythmic values, okay, by using ties and dots. We also talked about rests and how each note value has an associated rest and how they fit in a measure with all the other regular notes, and how we perform rests together with regular notes. We talked about the simple meter, the meters that have 2, 3, and 4 on the top number. Okay, and we gave some examples of simple meter and some simple rhythmic figures, and we're going to talk a lot more about these in the upcoming videos. On my next video, we're going to talk about compound meters. We're going to talk about triplets, complex meters, mixed meters, multi-measure rests, and I'm going to introduce you to one of my preferred books on rhythmic notation, something that you should probably be purchasing. We're going to be doing a lot of exercises from that book, so that's going to be a very, very interesting excursion when we dive into the Rubber Star Rhythmic Training book. I'm going to have links on my next video to Amazon where you can purchase this book from. So with that, I'm going to ask you guys to stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you on my next video.